gosh, what are you gonna show? So I have one ordered. I have one of the Daniel Smith dot cards ordered. I'm just waiting for it to arrive because it is out of stock everywhere. So my local paint shop has ordered one for me, and as soon as it's in, I will be swatching it. But they release them, and as soon as they release them, they sold out immediately, and they are already sold out everywhere. And so I have an order in for one, but it has not arrived yet. And so hopefully it will arrive in the next couple weeks, and then I will do a video on it. Really, this is a palette cleanser. I have been trying to film a video for the past 2 days, and I just can't get it. And so we're going to film a Schmincke dot card video as sort of a palette cleanser, and hopefully by the end of it, I will be able to sit down and film what I've been trying to film for the past couple days. So let's get into this. I will say I like that the Schmincke dot card comes in an envelope. It is very nice. I've forgotten to check if there's sound. Is there not sound? Oh, my laptop's muted. There is sound. Great. Oh, too many lives where we've lost sound halfway through. I have now been scarred for life. So, comes in a very nice envelope. I'm going to try and open carefully. Ish. I wonder if it's going to have the same sort of plastic page protector that the newer cards have. I don't know though. So, here we go. And it was upside down in the envelope. So, the Schmincke 140 dot card. It does. Oh, great. I love these things. They're great page protectors. There are no pigment numbers. Oh, Schmincke. You'd been doing so well. You'd been doing so well in the dot card series compared to Daniel Smith. There are no pigment numbers on their dot card. Oh. I don't know that I'm going to put all the numbers in the caption. 140 is a lot of colors to look up. We're going to see how I feel about them. So before we commit to putting all the pigment numbers in, especially because there is not a single pigment number on this sheet, which is not helpful in a dot card. If you've watched the Daniel Smith dot card video, you'll know how I feel about that already. It's one of my least favorite things in a dot card because it just makes it so unhelpful. Are the dots on this smaller than the other sheet? They look smaller, but that doesn't necessarily mean they are smaller. So where's exclusive? Maybe they're just, no, like that one's tiny compared to the, yeah, I'd say the dots on the 140 are significantly smaller than the dots on the light colors and the exclusive. I don't know where darks is, but, oh, let's get into swatching a dot card with no pigment numbers. Really, Schmincke? You've been doing so well. Titanium white. Always a nice white. Yeah, actually scooch over this way so it's less far to reach. I tend to prefer white gouache over white watercolor. I just don't like white watercolor. I don't use it. Titanium yellow. And I will be marking off the colors that I have in my palette as we go. We'll mark palette colors in blue, will we? No, we'll mark palette colors in, yeah, we'll mark palette colors. Yeah, we'll mark palette colors in blue. We'll mark colors that I want in gold. Lemon yellow. Oh, I'm so disappointed that the smaller sheets have pigment numbers and the big one doesn't. It almost makes me wonder if them adding pigment numbers to dot cards is new. And this is just old stock. Because it doesn't make sense to me that some of their dot cards would have pigment numbers and some of them don't. Because I know that the old super granulating dot cards have pigment numbers, so why wouldn't their 140 have pigment numbers? It's really frustrating. Cadmium yellow hue. Oh, sorry, that was cadmium yellow. This is cadmium yellow hue. So these should look pretty much identical. And they do. I would actually say the hue's a little bit brighter. Van Diem yellow. Not a yellow that I have in my palette, but a yellow that I do really like. It's nicely bright. Cadmium yellow light. I think I have this in my palette, not from Schmincke. It's not a yellow that I reach for. Pure yellow. Not having the pigment numbers is really annoying. It's so annoying. I'm now concerned that the 260 Daniel Smith isn't going to have their pigment numbers. It probably won't. Auraline hue. I have actual Auraline, which is cobalt yellow in my palette. I decided to get it because I already use cobalt greens and cobalt turquoises, and so to me it didn't make a big difference to add in cobalt yellow. Plus it was a yellow that I really liked. Cadmium yellow medium. That being said, if you're keeping a cadmium and cobalt free studio, this hue's pretty similar. Ooh, so they don't have a cadmium medium hue. Chromium yellow hue light, except if that's it. And they're just naming them differently, which again would be really annoying, Schmincke. Transparent yellow. Do I have this? I bet you this is nickel azo yellow, which is PY 150. Let's actually pull up Jackson's and go to color, watercolor, so that I have the pigment list, watercolor paint, because otherwise this is going to get really annoying really fast. Schmincke Hordam. I think this is PY 150. I might be wrong though. Of course, Jackson's isn't loading. All right, Turner's yellow, which is now bled into what I think is PY 150. It is not in the Jackson shop. That's annoying. All right. So, quinacridone gold hue. I can't remember if I like or hate this color. Of course, I've lost my... Oh, there it is. We've had this in a previous dot card. There are other Quin Gold hues I like more. There are ones that are brighter and more fun. Chromium yellow hue deep. Okay, so I think at some point they stopped calling them cobalt hues. Oh no, this one's chromium hue lemon. I'm just, unable to read, which comes as no surprise. Cadmium yellow deep. I like the hue version more. Indian yellow. I would say is not my favorite version of Indian yellow, but is like what it traditionally looks like. So, yeah. Yellow orange. Again, not... I think I have this color in a pan, actually. I have two Schmincke oranges. I think I have yellow, orange, and Saturn red in pans. So both of those will get dots. Cadmium orange light is an orange that I do like. I have it from I have it from Cosmic, my palette, and I do like and use it. Chromium orange hue is very bright and is definitely a fun orange. Again, I have it in my palette, just not from Schmincke. Cadmium orange deep. Such a fun orange. Transparent orange is a color that I have the Winsor Newton version of, and I'm not sure if I like it or not. I like it until it dries, and then I don't like it very much. Saturn red, I have in my palette. I know that I don't really use it a bunch. I got it when I was trying to replace an orange that I couldn't get at the time. And while it's not my favorite, it is an orange that I use. Cadmium orange red. Oh, cadmium red orange. Again, have this color, not from them, from somebody else. Permanent red orange. Again, I think I might have this from somebody else in my palette. Permanent red. I don't have this in my palette. It's hard to know because I don't actually know what the pigment number for it is off the top of my head. What is permanent red? Permanent red is... Oh yeah, I was never going to get that. It is PR242 and PO62. It's a mixture of red and orange. I was never going to get that. It's not what I would have as that mix in my head. It's also not colors that I'd mix together for that red. I don't love cadmium reds. I'm really picky about them and they're just not my favorite. Cadmium red light, I have a bunch of these in my palette. I've tried a bunch. I've never actually found one I liked, which is sort of depressing. Geranium red. I have no idea what your pigment number would be. You might be a PV19. Correct. What are you? Nope, PR242. Yeah, wasn't gonna get that. Vermilion. I think vermilion hue in my palette. I don't know that I've got genuine vermilion. I find it too orange to be a red in a palette. When I want a red in a palette, I want a red, not an orange. And so it's just not the color that I reach for. Vermilion light, again, not the color that I'm going to reach for when I want a red or even a pink, as I find it just leans too orange. Scarlet red, Now we're like getting into the reds that I actually use. I have had this on my wish list for a little bit. I haven't added it to my palette yet. I keep going back and forth about adding it. I'm still like unsure about if I actually want it or not. Cadmium red middle. I don't know that I've got a cadmium red middle. I've got maybe I do. I've got many cadmium red lights and many cadmium red darks. That is the closest to volcano red that I've seen in any cadmium red. That's super cool. Its granulation is too heavy, but it's got the right granulation pattern. That's fun. I'm wondering if it's that with a whole bunch of binder. That's volcano red. Quinacridone red light. I love quinacridones. They're just so much fun. And quinacridone red is a pigment that in the past few months I've decided I actually really like in my palette. And so I've tried a bunch of different brands and I've discovered that really there's not a big difference across brands. There's some difference in intensity. So you can get a pinker one or you can get a more muted one. Other than that though, they're all pretty much the same. Transparent red deep, as long as you're buying the single pigment. That's the thing. Without having pigment numbers, it's hard to know if these are all single pigment or not. And because I know from the other dot cards that lots of their ones that are normally single pigments aren't single pigments, I am a little bit suspicious that some of the ones that I like aren't actually the pigments that I think they are. Cadmium red deep. I'm just trying to see how much I can manipulate that, purely because, you know, Volcano Red had me really stumped for a while. Perylene Maroon is quite pretty. Is it something that I'd have in my palette? No, but it is quite pretty. Perylene Red Dark. This is a tiny dot. This dot doesn't even cover their circle of where they're meant to put the dots. Much like the last time I swatched it, I'd say it's not actually a dark red. There are other reds that are much darker. It doesn't feel dark enough. Alizarin Crimson, one of my absolute favorite reds. What version do I think this is? I don't think it's the PR83 version. I think it's the mixed version, purely because it feels a bit too pink. I'm seeing that pink too much. Am I right? I am not right. According to Jackson's, it's 83.1. All right. It seems much more pink than the 83 I have in my palette, but we're going to trust Jackson's pigment numbers for once. I don't always, but on occasion I do. And at this point, I am not willing to go and look at a billion other places. Ruby Red Deep. I love this red. There's just something about this red that I am obsessed with. That is so pink. It shouldn't be that pink. Where's... Okay, we're gonna swatch all these and then I will have my moment of complaining about colors. It shouldn't be that pink. Let's just say that. Madder Lake Red Deep. I love how this was supposed to like de-stress me and get my brain relaxed enough to film something challenging, and instead now it's trying to figure out what's going on with this Schmincke dot card because there are no real pigment numbers on it. Madder Red Dark. Oh, I like how you've got Madder Lake Deep and then Madder Red Dark right side by side. That's great. That's the one thing about not having pigment numbers on sheets. If brands update their formulas, there's no way to tell if the dot card you have is old or new because there are no pigment numbers, which does make this even more challenging because I do know that Schmincke has changed pigments on a couple things over the past couple years. And so if this is dead stock, there is a chance that like the pigment numbers wouldn't match up Bordeaux. I just don't get not putting pigment numbers on dot cards because, yeah. If you buy dot cards, do you prefer to have pigment numbers or do you care? Because I didn't used to care, and then brands started to reformulate colors, and now it makes such a big difference because then you know if you're buying a current dot card or not. Rose Madder, Permanent Carmine, get anything else out of that Rose Madder? Nope, not really. It's just going to be that very light little blob. All right, Ruby Red. Not just have, oh no, we had Ruby Red Deep. I would say that is hot pink. That is not Ruby Red, that is hot pink. All right, Magenta. Oh, okay, I know what's going on. One of these is the preferred version for me, which is PR 122, and then one of these is PR 202, I believe. I think this is the 202 version. Let's see. Magenta. Nope. PV 42, PR 122. And then this is the PR 202. All right. Many, many versions of magenta. I just find this version sometimes a bit too purple for what I want, and so I tend to use the PR 122 version. Quinacridone Violet, also known as my least favorite purple. It's just like so purple and so blue, but also like so flat at the same time, if a color can be all of those things at once. And I don't particularly like it. Potter's Pink. We're gonna wet this and leave it because it will take a bit. Perylene Violet. I feel like I swatched this on a dot card earlier. Again, I like it when it's wet. I don't like how flat it dries. And there are other colors that I feel similarly about. Oh, I like their Potters. It reactivates quite nicely. It's nicely pale. That's something to consider adding to my palette. Quinacridone Purple, once again, does not cover the circle. Again, not my favorite purple. The purples that I like are all mixes. They're just more interesting. I don't like single pigment purples. I can't think of a single one I've got in my palette that I like. They're just not it for me. Manganese Violet. Schmincke Violet. I have this in my palette. Oh, I have the next two in my palette. I bought it for the Schmincke video. Same with Cobalt Violet Hue, which now that the Schmincke video is done, if you were following along in the Schmincke series, you'll know that I found this color really disappointing. Now that the Schmincke video is done, I actually sort of love this color. It's fun, it's interesting, it's unique. I just, at the time, had spent such a long time trying to find it that it was sort of a letdown when I finally got to swatch it. Now, though, that I've had some time, I actually quite like it. Ultramarine Violet. Oh, this is the one that I thought just looked blue. Delft Blue. Indigo. I think I found their Indigo too green. So, because some of these, we've done 2 Schmincke dot cards so far, so we've seen some of these so far. And I don't have a huge Schmincke collection, but I do have some. Dark Blue. I don't know that I've seen you yet. Are you like an Indian throne with maybe some black thrown in? No, you're just a really fun Indian throne. Oh, you're going on my list of maybes. Phthalo Sapphire Blue. Cobalt Blue Deep. I do have this from one brand in my palette. It's not my most used cobalt blue. I find it really light, but it is not bad. French Ultramarine, not my favorite color. I think I've only got the Daniel Smith version in my palette. I just tend to reach for ultramarines more often than a French ultramarine. It's just not... When I want a dark, like ultramarine blue, I don't want a French ultramarine. Ultramarine Finest. Oh, and then we still have ultramarine blue. I would say that their French ultramarine also granulates a lot compared to a normal French ultramarine. I'm used to a French ultramarine not granulating, or not granulating a bunch and being flat, so that's interesting. Ultramarine blue. I have other ones I like more. We'll say that. Cobalt Blue Light. Not awful. I don't know that I love it, but not awful. Cobalt Blue Hue. If you are trying to have a total cobalt cadmium free palette, I will say that Schmincke probably does one of the best jobs about making sure that they're almost the same color. Some brands, their hues stay really sticky or dry weird. The Schmincke ones don't. So if you're worried about having a cobalt and cadmium free palette, Schmincke does a great job with that. I don't care. So much of my palette is already cobalts and cadmiums that it wouldn't make sense to transfer over to a cobalt and cadmium free palette right now. But if you are concerned about that, like their Cobalt Blue Hue is very similar to their Cobalt Blue Light. Their chromium yellow hues are very similar to their cobalt yellows. And same with their oranges and reds. They do a good job of it. And I think that's is a point for them. Mountain Blue. Cobalt Azure. Again, this one is a flat dot. I would say that the dots are really inconsistent. Some of them are like proper dots and some of them have almost no paint, which is a little bit frustrating. Prussian blue. Paris blue. Phthalo blue. Then we come over here and we do the next page, which has another many colors to go. Cerulean blue hue. I don't know why you wouldn't just use genuine cerulean blue. Also, this is really bright for a cerulean blue. Not my favorite. Helio cerulean. Again, quite bright for a cerulean blue. I like the more muted cerulean blues. Cobalt cerulean. Actually, as this one's drying down, it's less bright. Helio turquoise. I still love this color. There's just something about it that's absolutely fantastic. Cobalt turquoise, one of my favorite colors. I love the Daniel Smith version. I'm almost done my tube of it, and I'm going to potentially try the Schmincke version. What pigment's the Schmincke version? What I like is the pigment. Oh, it is a PG50. So yeah, I might try the Schmincke version. Again, this whole not having the pigment numbers thing, super annoying. Cobalt green turquoise, which I think is probably PG26, I want to say. Nope, PG36. Well, I got the 6 part correct. Prussian green. I really like this color, and that surprised me when I swatched it out for the first time. And I think it was the exclusives card, or maybe it was darks. Viridian, I don't have the Schmincke version. And again, because this doesn't contain the pigment numbers, I don't know what version this is because a lot of the brands are phasing out PG18. So this could be, and I don't know if Schmincke has yet, so this could be PG18 or this could be something else. And because there are no pigment numbers, there's no way to know. According to Jackson's, they still use PG18, but they're all marked as being low stock or out of stock, which tells me that they're probably transitioning pigments like Winsor Newton is. So I would assume that at some point there's going to be a new pigment number for it. But because there isn't a new one yet, I'm going to assume this is PG18. Chromium oxide green. I know that this is not actually chromium oxide pigment. I also know that this does not look like chromium oxide because it is a bright green, not sort of like a muted avocado green that's really opaque. Chromium oxide does not look like this in most brands. I'll pull out a swatch once I've swatched everything. This isn't what it looks like. It was one of the very first pigments in the Schmincke series that I had a problem with, purely because it does not look like the standard chromium oxide does. phthalo green, helio green, permanent green olive, sap green, permanent green, May green, cobalt green pure. Have this, love it, it's great. Cobalt dark green, bet you that's PG 26. Am I right? Yep. Hooker's green, a color that I don't have from any brand in my palette because I don't like it. Olive green. Again, these don't look like olive greens. I would say neither this or olive green or green olive look like olive greens. They're too bright to be an olive green. Chromium green oxide. This is what a chromium green looks like, where it sort of like looks chalky, but that's how it naturally looks, and it's very opaque. This, which they've also called chromium oxide green, but they've labeled it brilliant, does not actually, does not actually contain the pigment for chromium green. And on Jackson's, they've had to label it not Viridian because people kept buying it thinking it was Viridian, which tells you that really it does not look like chromium oxide green. It'll either be called chromium oxide green or chromium green oxide, depending on the brand. It's PG 19. It's the standard pigment number for it. It's always some variation of chromium oxide and green. I have a couple variations of it that I really like. It's hard to mix with unless you're using it in a granulating mix because it is so opaque and can be so overpowering, though it is fun to have in your palette because sometimes you want that opacity in a color. Olive green yellowish. Is this actually going to look like an olive green? Closer to an olive green. I don't know that we're actually there yet, but we're closer. Green earth. I, again, have an issue with this color. Green earth is PG 23. This green earth is not PG 23 and is too bright to actually be a green earth and too green to be a green earth. Green earth comes in a whole bunch of variations, but none are quite. Actually, this one doesn't look nearly as bright as my pan of it does. It tends to be a much more muted brown green than this. And of course, the Schmincke version that they've called green earth is not actually green earth. Transparent green gold. I can only call out the colors that I know the pigment numbers off of the top of my head. There are a couple coming up that I know from the Schmincke series that are sort of standard. This is normally a PBK7 color, and in the Schmincke line it's not, which is really difficult when you're brand new to painting, to think you're buying something and it not to be what you're buying. They're also a fan of putting slashes in between pigment numbers instead of commas, and then not explaining what those slashes mean. I think it means that it can be either pigment, which again, not super helpful. So, yeah. Rutile yellow. Interesting that this yellow, oh no, this yellow is definitely a sandier yellow. I was gonna say, interesting that it's not up with the other yellows, but it's definitely a sandier yellow. Jaune Brilliant Dark. Not my favorite yellow. I don't like Jaune Brilliants. I tend to find them too orange. I would say this one's pretty nice. It's not super orange. Naples Yellow. I don't know that this is actual Naples Yellow. Let's find out. It is not. Naples Yellow is PY1, and this is a mix of 3 pigments. Oh, Schmincke. I want to love you. I want to love you. Your formulation is lovely. You activate so nicely. You were doing quite well on dot cards with pigment numbers, but again, you use standard pigment names for mixes. The first pigment number for Naples Yellow is PW6. PY1 doesn't even appear in Naples Yellow. And if you're trying to, if the first line of your description says an imitation, stick the word hue in. You're fine with sticking the word hue in for cadmiums. Stick the word hue in. Raw Sienna. I think this is one of our friends that is not actually PBR7. I might be wrong, but I think this is one of them that's not. Yeah, PBR7, PY42. I think this whole next slew of colors are all things that are not single pigments. Yep. Yellow raw ochre is not a single pigment. It is PY42 and PY43. Normally yellow ochre would be one of the 2 pigments, not both. Both can be yellow ochre, but you don't find them as a mix very often. Titanium gold ochre. Okay, you're what I expected you to be. I'm okay with that. It's what I expected it to be. Yellow ochre, PY42. Again, what I expected you to be. I do appreciate that the Jackson site seems to have them in the same order as the swatch sheet. PY42 for transparent ochre. Was it raw umber that was another mix? Yep. Why do they keep having to add PY43 to PBR7s? Like there is no need. There are so many different versions of PBR7 out there. Just like find one you like. Stop adding other stuff to it. I did not swear on live. Naples Yellow Reddish is a mixture of 4 pigments. Why? Because why not? Why not? Why not? Why not? Spinel Brown. Huh. Okay. Not what I would have thought. It is PY119. Again, not what I would have thought, but you know, whatever. Golden brown is PY65, PBR41. I feel like we've had this color in a dot card, and I actually really like it, which surprised me. Transparent sienna. Are you another one that's... Nope, you're PBR 101. Sorry, PR 101. Maroon, brown. Finally, a PBR 7. Burnt sienna. Why? Why? Ugh. PR 101. PBK 9. Seriously, Schmincke? Seriously? PR 101, English Venetian red. Madder brown is PR 206. Transparent brown, PBR 41. Translucent brown has no pigment number and is not on this sheet. Lovely. Mahogany brown is PBR 33. I have it in my palette and I love it. It's a great brown. Indian red. Again, why? PR 101. PR 206. Normally it is just PR 101. Mars brown is PB, nope, PR 6. Yep. I have this brown. It's a great brown. Transparent umber. PR 101. Burnt umber. PBR 7. Greenish umber. PBR 7. Van Dyke. Oh, again, it's a crazy mix. I remember complaining about this last time. Normally this is NBR 8 and has a super fun granulation to it, is a lot of fun to use, a lot of fun to paint with. Of course, the Schmincke version is a mix of 3 pigment numbers, PY 150, PBR 7, and PBK 7, and does not have nearly as much granulation or stuff going on with it. Sepia brown. starts with PB 15.1, so we'll see how blue it actually is. Oh, it's not. It's actually quite nice. Sepia brownish red. I know from the last video that I like their neutral tint. Oh, it's random gray on here. No, it's not. Neutral tint. It's much more pink than the Daniel Smith one, but it's actually quite nice, and I will be adding it to my palette at some point because I really like it. Again, it's very purple for a neutral tint. I don't know that I'd actually call it a neutral tint, but I love it. Neutral gray, I have not swatched yet in any video, and I'm excited to see what it looks like. I think it's too blue. You can really see the PB60 in it. Payne's gray bluish. Have this color swatched out. I don't love it. The PB15 really comes through, and I feel like it needs more black to counteract it. Perylene green. I don't have their version, but I've got many others of the 31 version. I would say the Schmincke one's actually pretty light compared to some of the others out there. There are a lot that are a lot darker that I've got in my palette, though I do prefer the 32 version. Schmincke Payne's Gray. I've never swatched this one out. Oh, I like that. I might have to add that to my palette. Lamp Black I have in my palette. It's great. I love it. It's a lot of fun, and I use it all the time. Ivory Black, I'm going to guess is a mix, and is PBK6. No, sorry, not a mix. I'm going to guess is PBK6. Nope, PBK9. PBK9 isn't my favorite black. It's not as granulating as some of the ones that I like to use a lot, though it is quite nice and opaque, which is lovely. Hematite Black. Oh, that makes no sense. I think it's probably a PBK8. Jackson says it listed as PG17. So we're actually going to click on one of the colors so that I can see it on a listing and see if, you know, it's actually listed as PG17. It is. That's interesting. I'm going to have to look into that more. Anthracite. I didn't think there were any versions of PG17 that were black, but maybe there are. Graphite Gray. Mars Black. Opera Rose, brilliant, or Brilliant Opera Rose. Oh, so pretty and fluorescent. I don't actually have an Opera Rose in my palette. I know people either love it or hate it. I've never tried it. Brilliant Purple. Brilliant red, violet. Doesn't seem all that different than a quinacridone purple, actually, color-wise. And then brilliant blue violet. What makes them brilliant? Do they glow under black light? Is that what makes them brilliant? Maybe. They say fluor at the end, so I assume that means they're fluorescent. And then we have a couple metallics. So let's swatch those last couple ones. And then we have everything swatched. So, silver. I would say they're nicer than the Daniel Smith metallics, which isn't saying a lot. I think you probably have to try pretty hard to be worse than the Daniel Smith metallics. At least these seem to sort of spread. So, what do I have already in my palette? Let's quickly go through. I already have I'm going to mark what I already have in blue and mark what I want in gold. I already have Saturn red, Schmincke violet, and cobalt violet hue. What else do I already have? I already have green earth. Where's cobalt? Cobalt green pure. Watercolor collection. I think I've got lamp black. Schmincke. Oh. Mahogany brown. Mars brown. Yellow orange. Just looks really different here than it does in my swatch. Lamp black. And phthalo blue. Why do I have their phthalo blue? Must have been something to do with pigment numbers, because I don't actually like it. So it must have been an odd pigment number. So now that we've marked which ones I have, what do I like? I like neutral tint, neutral gray, panes, anything in here? Don't think so. I feel like there were some yellows that I liked. I liked lemon, and I liked ultramarine violet, and I liked, why did I like transparent orange? No. Lemon. ultramarine violet, May green, from this one, Rutil, and Vanadium were the two I liked. As well as Perylene Red Dark, which I don't actually like. What I like is this Ruby Red Deep. And Cobalt Green Turquoise. Do I have the third one? Of course I don't. Alright. Well, it's gone on an adventure somewhere. Are there any others that I like? No. Like that. What is the pigment for Ruby Red? Because it is fun, but yeah, it's a PV19. I've got a bunch. I like their potters. Oh, I like Prussian green. Remember that's marked on something. Their neutrals I'm not against, but I'm also not for. I think I'd only get their single pigment neutrals. So there is one that's like a weird pigment number. Yeah, Spinel Brown is PY119. And there's another one that's an odd pigment number. Transparent brown. Which is PR140, just PR41. But I think those are the only neutrals that I'd add, because everything else is sort of basics, which I'm not against, but if I want to buy basics, I want to buy single pigment basics. So there we go. There's the Schmincke 140 dot card. There are definitely some fun colors in it, but overall, I think it's a reminder that there are lots of colors I don't like, and you really have to check pigment numbers, because a lot of things look like they're single pigments until you actually look at the pigment numbers and discover they're not. I think chromium green and the siennas and umbers bug me the most, because standardly those are all known for being one pigment, and a very specific pigment at that. And Schmincke's just sort of thrown that out the window on some of their colors. So I hope you found this helpful. If you did, thanks for watching. I would love to know if you have been enjoying these dot card series. They're fun to do. I genuinely enjoy making them. So thanks for watching.